Greetings, I'm Rob Chapman.
Oh, and I'm the captain. Caught me a bit unawares there, Rob.
Potentially prematurely started that video, but you know what?
Well,
I've had to stick within my statutory 30 days.
Wouldn't be the first time you've been premature.
I was going to say, I have to stick within my statutory 30 days away from Lee. Otherwise, we can't handle the sexual tension and the room explodes. And sometimes I just come out a bit quick, you know.
Imagine that. Imagine... What? Imagine if that was actually something we actually had some sort of special restraining order that basically meant...
Rob and Lee shall not meet between 30 days' time.
I bet it's happened. Can you imagine, like, people
that
like...
work together. Top Gear, guarantee it.
Roger Moore and Tony Curtis or whatever, I don't know. I'm just guessing. I don't think that was a problem. Famous celebrities, not that we're celebrities, we mustn't talk of ourselves in that sort of capacity, but famous, like, you know, celebrity duos that really hated each other. Can you think of any?
Rod Hull and Emu.
Yeah, Emu always had the arse about the fact that Rod's hand was
in his arse.
Yeah. I can't think, let me just think. There must be some. There must be, anyway. Oasis, well, they didn't hate each other. Well, they probably always have. But they're not really like are they a celebrity duo? They probably are, aren't they?
I mean, I think they probably are.
They don't like each other, that's for sure. If you didn't hear what Pete shouted, he shouted Morecambe and Wise. No,
there's a duo of people on internet now who I think have a little bit of the special love chemistry that we have.
Who?
Which is Dan and thing from...
Dan and Mick?
No, I'm talking about from Nerdist's Muskwatch.
Oh, well, I haven't seen that.
If you haven't seen
Muskwatch... What about Elon?
Oh my God. It's probably one of the best things on the internet right now.
Do you know, is Elon's short for elongated? That's his name. Elongated Musk.
How could it be short for elongated?
I'm just saying. That's what it is, because his mum called him. Elongated Musk.
I would love for Elon Musk to be a guitar fan.
Oh, wouldn't you?
Elon, if you are a guitar fan, I'd love to give you a guitar.
Let's be honest with you. He'd get your guitar. He'd, within 3 seconds, come up with 17 different ways to make it better, and he'd just send it back and go, there you go.
Well, his robot arm would expand and start playing it with 15 fingers.
It just would. It just would. It'd be better and more sustainable and environmentally good, and it'd probably go to the moon.
Yeah, probably.
Or beyond.
Yes.
Anyway, look, Gordon Smith. British, one of the longest standing, if not the longest standing.
They need to sit down then.
Yes, British manufacturers of guitar. Since 1974, don't you know?
Wow.
That was when you were born, wasn't it?
No, I was born in 75.
75.
Yes.
So this guitar company is older than you.
I was only given half the 70s to enjoy, which was a real shame.
So the story goes, it's two chaps. There was a John Smith and a Gordon Whittam.
Is this a real story?
This is a real story.
Right,
and
okay.
they
was
formed...
for 3 different nationalities of British person.
No, they formed Gordon Smith back in the 70s, early 70s. And I gather that the Gordon bit of it didn't last terribly long. They had different ideas about the direction that they wanted to go. Right. Legend has it that Gordon went out to buy a pint of milk one day and just never came back.
Right.
Weird, or what?
Are you genuinely serious?
I'm genuinely saying this.
I thought you were kidding.
And so John Smith and his band of merry men carried on making the Gordon Smith guitars. And John's vibe always was the simple, like, you know, rock machine thing. I think Gordon wanted to get into more of the, what do you call it, like more flamey...
better.
Not better, you know, like what do you...
Pretty.
More pretty. Anyway, and then more recently... The Smiths, Mr. Smith retired.
Right.
And
so neither Gordon nor Smith own Gordon Smith.
That's right. There is a new owner who relocated the Doug something or other. I can't remember his surname. And he relocated the brand. His background. He was more of like an acoustic manufacturer background.
Good.
And he bought Gordon Smith, relocated it to his acoustic manufacturing place in Northamptonshire.
So he knows all about woods and vibrational frequencies.
I don't think I've ever met him, but one would assume so.
Bracing, all the good things you need.
So Gordon Smith, historically, you'd probably recognise a Gordon Smith guitar from being sort of a natural-looking mahogany kind of guitar. Their most popular shape is probably the double cut, but the single cut similar. They look a bit like a Les Paul Junior. They're typically, they're pretty famous for just doing like a one pickup, volume and tone, rock machine. Really popular, I guess, in the early days with some of the more sort of punky bands that wanted like an anti-fashion guitar. But
this one fact that I know about Gordon Smith that you probably don't know.
I don't. Go on then.
And that the original Smith from Gordon Smith was an avid believer in the Loch Ness Monster.
I didn't know
and
that.
as such, he made the scratch plate to look like a diving Nessie. There's the head, there's the flipper, and he's clearly going after something down here. And
I think it's I know this has come up before with scratch plates. What's the famous like psychotherapist thing where is it Rausch or something where they just see a shape?
What do you see now?
Think
Boobs.
You go, oh yes, I see my mother being murdered by my father. It's like, oh dear, that's bad.
There is she being stabbed.
So I don't know what I see there. I think I see a little like maybe a whale or an octopus.
No, it's a Pac-Man ghost. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. Or
it is a Pac-Man ghost.
Or it's a diving Loch Ness Monster.
It's called Rorschach.
Rorschach.
Thank you.
That was what I was trying to think of. So what do you see?
Like Rorschach's Roughnecks.
In fact, immediate look, close-up of the scratch plate on screen now. Quickly, type, what did you see?
We've just cut back into this video.
Anyway.
I'd like to apologise if you've lost a gap of time.
Look, so the GS1000, ever since this chap Doug bought them, there wasn't... The range for I think we first previewed these in 2017, but we're in 2018 now. The idea was to kind of do like a more deluxe-y kind of vibe. So this is a little bit thicker body, gloss tops, some nice binding, this kind of tortoiseshell binding on this one, and then there's white binding on the other three. But I was very intrigued to find out what the wood was on these guitars. And apparently it's a wood that Gordon Smith have been using for a long time. It is Brazilian. Please turn your phone off, Mr. Chapman. Brazilian cedar. What do you think of that, Elon Musk? So, yes,
so
the
it's
timber.
Brazilian cedar.
Brazilian cedar.
But what's the neck?
All Brazilian. Actually, you know what? I say that. It's got to be. It's got to be
different.
That's totally right. I thought so. It's obviously a mahogany neck. That's definitely grain is mahogany. The body is Brazilian cedar, and they cut these all from great big lumps of wood. So there's no, I suppose, as do every guitar, but this is a one-piece body, one-piece neck. Someone asked me the other day on Facebook what was my opinion on scarf joints on headstocks, and I kind of didn't really have one, but it appears to be there's a certain amount of snobbery that says, not having a scarf joint is better than having a scarf joint. If you don't know what a scarf joint is, it's where the headstock and the neck are two different pieces of wood
like this,
glued together.
It's like this. I'm a headstock.
Yeah.
I'm a neck.
So that's what it is. But to be honest with you, I was sort of sitting there going, presumably the scarf joint's probably structurally like stronger. But whether or not there's a vibration thing that's...
horse sinew glue that you use.
Well, that's true. So yeah, Brazilian cedar, one-piece body. Definitely a different piece of wood on the neck, so I'm going to guess at mahogany, but by all means dive over to the Gordon Smith site and see what they say.
This fretboard wood looks unnervingly like either ebony or...
I think it's rosewood.
It is rosewood,
yeah,
is it?
99.9% sure that the fretboard wood is rosewood.
I was steering away from it in case it wasn't.
No, pretty sure it's rosewood. Some of the Gordon Smith things that you see on all their guitars, brass nut is always, or often something you'll see on a Gordon Smith guitar. I was going to say often or always. I don't like saying always because someone will go, I've got a Gordon Smith guitar. But pretty sure that most of them come with a brass nut. They wind all their own pickups. And it's called a Gordon Smith Heritage Humbucker, and it's kind of like an angrier version of a PAF.
Right.
Like, sort of like... I was talking to the chappie that owns Gordon Smith now, and literally everything, all the machinery, the winding machine for the pickups, everything is from the 70s. It is old school. No CNC machines, all just literally hand cut on jigs and stuff. And it's tiny.
The bodies are cut just from a template.
Yeah, it's super tiny. There's like 5 guys that work there. They make 15, 20 guitars a week.
Right, okay.
All made in the UK. I think the only imported bits are things like the hardware.
And they're kind of affordable, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, that's the. We were having this sort of debate prior to the cameras rolling, which is this idea of you can't really do super affordable in the UK because, you know, if you're, you know, paying minimum wage and rent and taxes and everything at UK rates, you're never going to compete with the Far East or whatever. So when we say affordable, the Gordon Smith range is anything from like maybe £600-700 through to like £1,200. So mid pricey. But it's an interesting one, isn't it? Because clearly Gordon Smith don't have, they can't afford to spend as much time making the guitars as you could afford to spend making them if you went to the Far East, just because of the labour costs are so less. So I guess you get this idea of, is it like simple but quality? You know, would that be like, how would you sort of surmise like a guitar like this?
It's such a difficult thing for, you know, because basically for the same money you could buy mega high end, you know, something from Korea or, you know, Indonesia, from Ibanez or
whoever,
you know, any brand. So I guess when it comes down to sort of quite simple designed guitars that are mid-priced from England, you kind of think, well, it really comes down to whether or not you love the brand.
Well, and so Gibson have the same, I suppose, dilemma, or people looking, you know, which is that people want American-made Gibsons for £700 or £800, dollars, whatever it is, and they will inevitably then compare those guitars to Far Eastern-made guitars for the same price, and same again, really. You've got to make your own choice. I think there's an element of, you know, what you do get out of a heritage brand like Gibson or Fender, and, you know, to a lesser degree perhaps Gordon Smith. I don't mean a lesser degree in quality. I just mean in terms it hasn't got the heritage that Gibson has got. But you get a certain, like something, like a certain soul to the guitar, even if the physical specification maybe doesn't look as impressive as if you went out to the Far East.
But that soul is entirely dependent on you liking the brand, isn't it?
Absolutely. You've got to like the brand, you've got to like the guitar. Let me tell you a couple of, I mean, you know what I think this looks like? And I'm just going to throw it out there.
Yeah.
I think this looks like a Nick Huber.
Oh, yeah, it does.
Crowster? I think it looks a lot like one of those. What was the Nick Huber you had years ago with the Atari button on it? Or wasn't that a Nick Huber?
No, I had a Hufschmied.
Oh, Hufschmied.
Yeah, which
totally different guitar.
Brilliant guitars, by the way.
Totally different guitar. So, but I've seen. We've never stocked Nick Huber guitars, but we've had, like, you know, the odd second-hand one over the last few years, and it just reminded me. Not in this colour. I think I'm sure we.
It's the body shape.
I'm sure I've seen one in either blue or red. It's the body shape and the scratch plate.
Of an old ESP Potbelly, they were called.
Were they?
Potbelly was kind of their predecessor to the PRS shape, and it was exactly the same shape. But
well, I'm going to do tones. I'm going to do tones. We've talked enough about specification. It's very, very simple tonally wise. So here is the humbucker with the tone all the way up into a clean guitar amplifier. Very ringy. I can roll the tone down. There you go. Everyone that hates it when I play that chord. Whoa, the last like millimetre of the tone pot goes. And I have a coil split. I can put a little bit of gain on. I'm using, I don't even know if these are for sale yet, but we got some of the new hand-wired, made in Denmark T-Rex mud honey the other day. So it's not got like a billion tones in it, like a Strat or something would have, but it's got, you know, some interesting different tones in there.
All right, Chappé time then.
Go on then.
Got an angry Charlie.
Oh. Do you know what I like about single pickup guitars? Is it kind of forces you to do more with the way you pick and just where you might set the tone and the volume control. It's like, because you can't kind of go, oh, flip to the neck, flick to the bridge. You know, it forces you to kind of try to just play more dynamically and expressively.
I like how much space it gives you for your fingers when you're playing.
Yeah.
Because I often find that if I'm finger picking, because I do a lot of hybrid, that the pickup gets in my way and it's really annoying.
Yep.
So I tend to wind the neck one down really far, and then it's a little bit weaker.
Isn't the story behind why people like Malcolm Young and Phil X took the neck pickups out of their guitars was because they could audibly hear the fact that the string had one less magnet kind of pulling on it and therefore allowed the string to kind of vibrate a bit more?
I mean, that's a story.
That's a story. Isn't that? But it's scientifically a thing, isn't it?
Yes, it should increase the sustain of the string.
Yeah.
But
Because
this, I mean, to be perfectly honest, this doesn't have the world's longest sustain, and it has one pickup. So
yeah, that's true.
Sustain is all about construction
Yeah.
of the woods.
I agree. I agree. I kind of like these. I mean, I think there's an element that sort of says, you know, in this day and age, there'll be a customer that perhaps, you know, feels like they want to support British manufacturing. Yeah. Without a doubt, you know, if you buy a guitar that's manufactured in the UK, you can rest in the knowledge that, you know, you haven't paid any unnecessary import duty or shipping, and you're supporting the British economy and all that kind of stuff. And I kind of think these have got a look, you know, they're kind of cool. I know a couple of people that have bought GS1000s already, and they love them.
Right.
So I think there is a certain Gordon Smith customer that probably just loves these.
It's probably Gordon.
Yeah. Tailpiece, we didn't really talk about that. It's a wraparound tailpiece, but it's one of these wraparound tailpieces that you can also adjust the intonation as well. So that's cool.
It's just so there is one. I'm going to have to point out some little tiny negatives, please, just because it's my job.
It is
occasionally to be bad cop chappers. So with most string designs, you get the little ball. My fist is now representing the ball, and then around it you get the winds.
Yes, you do.
Up to my elbow, for example, and then you get the naked string.
Yes.
Well, what this bridge hasn't done is taken into account the length of an average wind. So if you were to put your finger here,
yeah, you can see them.
It very, very, very sharp because the wind is sticking out the back where it pokes, where it comes around the bridge, and so it's a little bit uncomfortable if you touch that.
I wonder if there are strings that have like a shorter or a longer kind of wind on them. I'm sure there are.
Well, since most strings are OEM through two factories, there are.
I don't know. See, you've got rotor sound.
That's
proper
true.
British string. These are D'Addario on here, aren't they? You can tell because
Yes.
they're multicoloured ball ends.
Yes, and D'Addario make all sorts of strings.
So come with a case and are £1,000 each. I thought I had more gain. It's got sustain, hasn't it? But it's not like ballsy Les Paul sustain as such, is it? It's just sort of, it's like a sort of a Les Paul light, sort of.
Yeah,
I think so.
What do you think about the position of the strap bouton?
Well, I never wear a strap, so it doesn't really bother me.
Right, okay, that's an absolutely fair point. I would have put one. Yeah, I would have put one there.
But it's pretty conventional, isn't it, to have the strap?
I suppose. I mean, they're doing the SG thing, aren't they? I just sometimes what happens is that it does that. It tips.
but how often do you stand like that as you're playing the guitar? I mean, you stand like that if you're going to have a shower, but not when you're playing. Yeah, you see, it hangs normally like that, doesn't it?
It depends. I mean, some shapes lend themselves to that working. So like an explorer shape, when you've got the wing against your leg, it tips it back. But with, I don't know, it's just a point. There are elements of this I love. I love the brass nut. I've always liked brass nuts.
Yeah.
Bit more top end on the open strings.
Just lastly, last sort of feeling, because some of you might be wondering what's the neck like. The neck is traditional, you know, not too thin, not too fat. Probably feels to me like it's got a slightly more of a D carve to it than a C carve. It's a little bit flatter on the edges here, but it feels kind of nice. A little bit. It's quite wide. You certainly know you've got some wood in your hand, don't you, when you're playing this guitar?
Are these 4 guitars the same model?
They are the same. It's just the colour.
Just checking.
Just checking.
Yeah.
Okay. So there we go. So look, if I didn't mention it already, you can pick up a GS1000. They actually, I tell a lie, they are. They're not limited edition. The shape isn't limited edition, but there was a conversation about how what the supply of Brazilian cedar was like, and potentially if this guitar carries on and they run out of Brazilian cedar, it might go back to just being an all mahogany guitar.
Which of course, great guitars are made from mahogany as well.
Yeah, so depending on when you watch this video and what GS1000s are available at the time, you may find that. But yes, Rob, look, that's it, £1,000 or $999, including a case, including VAT, made in the UK. Let's jam out.
What
4 colours.
Not to love.
4 colours, which we'll get some sweeps of. Let's jam.
Let's jam.
Hey everybody, thanks for watching the Andertons Guitar YouTube channel. If you're a drummer or a keyboard player or interested in music technology, you might find one of our other channels interesting, and I'll put details of those in the description below. If you want to find out more about the products we've just featured, please click here. If you'd like to buy a t-shirt like this, please click here. If you want to watch another video on our guitar channel, click down here. And to subscribe to our guitar channel, click here. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you next time.